Yuri, did you want to bring up a deal?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about a deal that we've been presented by one of the developers. He's based up north in Cumbria, and is developing a few blocks of flats in London, and he's getting so much work. He's a bit overwhelmed with work, and financially is the cash flow problems and all sorts of stuff is going on there. And he said, I need a business partner to help me. It's a bit too much all over me. So we start to analyze his deals and what he's doing and the way he's doing, and to see if we can help, obviously, and if we can, then great. We'll be doing this together. So the deal I was going to talk today about is in south of the river in London. It's a block of 14 apartments and 3,200 square foot commercial on the ground floor. So very interesting, quite nice looking block, brick clad. It's a couple of 1 beds, 2 beds, and 3 beds apartments, quite large. And the numbers. He found, obviously, Hampshire Trust was going to lend him the money to do it, but they needed him to put down 1.6 million on a GDV of just shy of 10 million pounds. So he approached a family office, and they said they will lend him the money, 1.6, not 1.6, 1.3 million, if he can put 300k in the deal, and they want interest rates on this, and they want 50% profit. So he is 50% less profit, and he still needs to find 300,000 pounds to begin with. And he's done all the work. He's got a team of builders, so basically it's self-managed. I mean, there is a manager employed, will be managing the build, and is all under control. So this way he can save on building costs. And when I looked at that, his total build cost is 190 pounds per square feet, and that's a new build in London. So it's quite well low, should we say? But because it's self-managed, then potentially it is possible. Because what we've done with the hotel as well, commercial to resi, we managed to do it for 850 a square meter, which is low, but because we self-managed, we had subcontractors and all that, a bit more time consuming, a bit more stressful, but you are in the total control of the things, quality, money. Obviously, nobody is gonna screw you up more than, say, a week's work. And basically everything is based on him developing the apartments, the block. And rough numbers are the purchase cost 3.4 million. There is section 106 in there, which is 564,500 pounds. Quite large though. There is agents fees as well, 51,000. And yeah, after that is all building costs and stuff. So there is a cost to put a lift, services connections, 10,000 each, including the commercial, a bit of for demolition, but there is not much to demolish. Professional fees is quite large amount in there, and contingency 7%, which again, it's on the small side, but recently I think we've seen the building materials prices going down, or they don't go down, but the building merchants, they offer, you know, they're doing offers. So basically it's a bit less of a struggle like it was last year and the year before. Yeah, basically, yeah, at the end of it is 25% on GDV, 25% profit on GDV, which is just over 2 million profit.
And so, sorry, just to reiterate a couple of things. So how many flats is it, Yuri?
14 apartments and a large commercial unit.
And what was the total build spend?
Total construction cost is 2.640 and contingency 184.
Okay. And so what do you think do you think is it looking for another investor? What do you think is the way forward for this deal?
Yeah, well, I don't know if anybody is using BrickFlow, so I put all the numbers into the BrickFlow. That's a platform that has a lot of lenders, and it's like comparethemarket.com for the lenders. And obviously it pops up, you know, quite quickly. And with all the figures, all the profits, all the money you need to put in, it will tell you if you are wrong in your building cost figures, or yeah, any other figures, you know. It will tell you the stamp duty and all that kind of stuff as well. So quite useful tool, and it does it in minutes. So I went through that, and yeah, there were a few lenders, obviously, to begin with, where you need to put a little bit less money, but there is less profit at the other end. But the people I like is crowdfunding, and they are in there as well. So they required 1.1 million down. And the profit is similar, it's just over 2 million, which is, I think, 120%. 120% on the money involved, money you put down. So, yeah. The other interesting thing, so I thought, you know, crowdfunding, and I'm listening for their podcasts and clubhouse rooms and you know, webinars and all that. Basically, you are dealing with people rather than the sharks that are lending, you know, bridging loans and development loans. So they are on your side, you know, they will work with you. They'll visit the site. They will see, you know, how you getting on with stuff, and they will help you if you get, you know, in a little trouble, which, as you know, will happen regardless of, you know, all of your homework. So the other interesting thing about this is he found a buyer for the building already, and that's a chap from Hong Kong. He said he's got investors that will buy, you know, all the flats, and he wants to buy the commercial part himself, and he's happy, you know, to sign the contracts and all that. So I thought the way to structure this, if we can exchange the contract, and again the GDV is nearly 10 million, then they'll have to put down £1 million, And if we can use these towards the deposit, and potentially for the chap that is arranging all this with the Hong Kongese, if we can potentially just sell it or give him the freehold for the work he does, you know, and that will give us most of the deposit we need to put down to start the build. And obviously, yeah, that's our part in we'll have to find another few investors, you know, to start the build with, and to do bits and pieces. But that will be, you know, we won't need to share 50% with the family office in this case. And
can I come in there? A couple of things. When you're talking about crowd funding, you're talking about crowd property. You're talking about a particular crowd funder. You're talking about crowd property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you know, it's like generic crowd funding is a generic term, and you're talking about a particular company.
Yeah.
It's called crowd property.
Crowd property. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly that.
One's a generic term, one's a company. You know, like a vacuum cleaner and Hoover. So it begs the question though, if you have a buyer in China or Hong Kong who wants to buy the property, right? Why not structure the deal in the same way as you would with developer? When you're developing social housing, you know, for a housing association, what you do is you do a contract and you sell the property on valuations, and then they release the money to you as you go along. So as opposed to bringing a lender in at all, I think if you've got a genuine buyer for this property and they're serious and they're funded, right, then you should be able to use their funding to build the property out. I think you've got somebody in the mix here if you've got an end purchaser that you don't need. So you've heard of a thing called vendor finance. Well, this is purchaser finance, right? So if you do social housing, I mean, we're working on 96 units at the moment for a housing association, and we're arguing about 10 grand a unit at the moment. No, we're not arguing, to be honest. We have told them they've got to be extra 10 grand a unit. There's the argument. And once we settle that and they agree, right, then what will happen with that is they will commit that amount of money. And what will happen is it will get paid down as the development's built out.
Yeah.
So I think if you're serious, I don't think there's enough profit in the deal, to be honest with you. But looking at the numbers that you've given, but if you do have a real buyer, then you really don't need a lender. You don't need crowd property. Simon and his friends will be so glad to hear that I said that. But you don't need that if you've got a real buyer. So there's a way to structure this deal where it's actually paid for by the purchaser. Now that depends on how the purchaser's financed and how much of their finance is borrowed or how much of there is investment funding. The likelihood is that if that's coming from China or Hong Kong, that'll be investment funding, because the Chinese are very keen on buying Britain at the moment in so many ways. But one of the ways that they're so keen on buying Britain at the moment, besides their technology and all of our companies, is they're also quite keen on buying our real estate. I think one day we'll all speak Chinese. So there's a way to do this that means you don't need a funder at all, I think.
Yeah, and we can pass to them some of the savings we're gonna have on interest rates and stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you a kind of smaller version of that. One of the guys I work with as a consultant, I helped him find a development site, and it was a farmer that had the development site, and he was running around like mad looking for investment and looking for funding. And I said to him, why not do vendor finance? And he says, what's vendor finance? I says, let's speak to the farmer and let's see if the farmer will actually take a little bit more money for his land, more money, not less money, because everybody goes for less money, BMV. And I said, let's see if we'll take a little bit more money. I said, let's have an open conversation with them. So I prepped the chap that I work with as a business consultant, and I gave him a whole kind of script to work with. And he went to the farmer and he said, look, cards on the table. This is what I'm going to pay you. This is what it's going to cost me to build. And this is what my finance is going to cost me. Now, if you don't desperately need the money today, what I will do is I will save some money on my finance, and I will give you extra money for your land if you will finance the land. And the farmer said, I'm in no rush for the money. That suits me fantastically. You give me the deposit that you were going to pay the finance. Essentially, you were going to pay the finance company your share. He says that will act as a deposit. We've then got an agreement. And instead of me getting X amount at the end, I get Y amount. And that suited both parties, because obviously my client saved a lot of money in terms of finance, and the farmer got slightly more for his land. I think the Americans call that a win-win. Sorry, somebody lost out. The greedy finance people, they lost out. That's who lost out on that deal.
Yeah, that's why I like crowdfunding as well, because there's real people making real money, you know, rather than, as you say, Paul, I don't want to mention because I might, you know, end up going to them, greedy finance people. But yeah, when you take the money from real people, that's, you know, giving them, you know, much better.
One thing I'll say about, I don't advertise anybody, but one thing, and I've never used them because we're self-funded, but one thing I'll say about crowd property is the guys actually understand property, unlike a lot of finance companies. I met Rupert. Rupert came up to Scotland from crowd property, and we had a meeting, and he spent a couple of hours with us, and we talked about a couple of the developments that we were actually selling, because we were talking about whether they would finance them for somebody else once we sold them. And I just wanted to meet the guys because they seemed to know what they were talking about, to be honest with you. It's very rarely I find in this industry now people who actually know what they're talking about. I find a lot of people who don't, but not so many who do. And they know what they're talking about. And it's good to talk to property people about property.
Yeah.
And a heck of a lot of funders know nothing about property.
Yeah.
So those guys do.
I've used Leo crowdfunding, so I'm in the process of putting a project on their platform quite shortly, but that's equity crowdfunding, which is slightly different, but it's been quite an interesting process.
Yeah, see, I think that's really interesting. I think the equity crowdfunding is really interesting for these kind of, especially these apart hotel commercial models where there is this kind of issue of potentially having to leave money in for a certain amount of time. So it's not like a quick, you know, buy, refurbish, refinance, and you can be out of it within 6 months to a year. You know, generally, you're looking at a couple of years books. And so that can be complex. So yeah, we that's certainly something that Yuri and I've been looking at. We've got another project which is a bit on the balance at the moment, whether that will go ahead, but that was definitely one of those models, because it's, as I understand it, Wendy, that they, you know, there's the propensity to have the funding for longer.